Okay, let's talk about voltage and free energy change. It turns out we can calculate the delta G, or the free energy, by using the formula delta G is equal to negative NFE. So delta G equals negative NFE, where E is the voltage of the cell, F is Faraday's constant, which is 96,500 coulombs per mole, or 96,500 joules per volt per mole, where a coulomb is a joule per volt. We'll more likely use the 96,500 joules per volt in this case because I want to get something in joules to work with. Since N and F are positive, delta G is positive if E is negative. And so a positive E is spontaneous, a negative delta G is spontaneous, and that's why we need that negative sign in the formula. And so you will continue to discharge your battery until E is equal to 0, at which point your battery is dead. Equilibrium has been reached, so if E is 0, delta G is 0. And it can also be affected by the concentration of the substances in the solution, which we might save for the next video. So if delta G is positive, E is negative, delta G is negative, E is positive. If delta G is equal to 0, then E is equal to 0. So if we look at this, when we compute delta G using E cell standard, and is the reaction spontaneous or not? We use this copper-silver reaction in the previous example video, in the video before this one. So you can go back and review that if you haven't watched that yet. So if we look, this is the problem that we worked out before, calculating the cell voltage of 0.46 volts. That would indicate this cell is spontaneous, which was the second part of that question. So delta G equals negative N. What's N? Copper is losing 2 electrons there. I need 2 silvers, gaining 2 electrons there. So N is 2 moles of electrons. My Faraday constant 96,500 joules per volt per mole. And then the E is 0.46 volts. Volts are going to cancel, moles are going to cancel. We're left with joules. And if delta E is standard, which it is, then that means delta G is standard. So then delta G standard equals, and then we're going to run that all through our calculator, negative 2 times 96,500 times 0.46. You get a negative 89,000 joules, rounding to 2 sig figs because of that. 0.46 is 2 sig figs, which is a negative 89 kilojoules, since delta G's are normally listed in kilojoules. And so that would be our answer.